All right, welcome to LCB. Today we have a very interesting interview for you. We have Kyle Bandujo here talking about his book, Movies with Balls. Very interesting book. And I got another guy. Normally we'd obviously have Gooch on, but since we were doing sports movies, had to bring on Klemmer, who I think out of everyone at our company is probably the most versed in sports movies.
Me or Brandon Walker? I think it depends on who you ask.
What do you,
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
I
what do you,
do. I do love sports movies. Seen a bunch of them. Seen a lot of good ones, a lot of bad ones. And I gotta say, I read through this book. I liked it a lot. Really interesting book. Super creative. Excited.
yeah, very
Really
excited.
glad to hear that. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I had Brandon Walker on my podcast a few years ago, and yeah, he's an encyclopedia. So,
Big
but yeah,
time.
no, really excited. Thanks for having me, guys.
The irreverent celebration of the greatest matchups in sports movie histories includes analysis maps and diagrams and design memorabilia, perfect for movie buffs and sports fans. Kyle and your co-author Rick Bryson break down why you love 26 of your favorite sports movies, including The Natural, Field of Dreams, Teen Wolf, The Karate Kid, She's the Man, The Waterboy, Bennett by Beckham, Creed, and many, 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 many more. Just give us your elevator pitch. Like, how did this book come to be?
Yeah, so this book came to be, I would say my co-author Rick, who did all the illustrations, all the art on the book, is he's the brainchild behind this. He's an ad guy, he's a graphics guy, and was kicking around the idea one day of like what would the tickets to these famous games look like, because he like laments the time where we used to get like paper tickets and now we don't. So he just started, like, he designed the ticket from like Bull Durham and Rocky Four, and was just kicking those around. It was like, I think this might make a good coffee table book. And he reached out to me through my podcast, which is a podcast about sports movies, and just said, "Hey, I would, want to turn this into a book. We need someone to write it. Would you be interested?" And I was all in. And so the idea grew from that. We expanded way beyond the tickets, and it was initially a fictional telling of, if we were eyewitnesses or we talked to eyewitnesses at all these events. We got about halfway through that, and then legally we found out we'd run into some problems. So it just turned into a general appreciation of why we love these movies and these matchups specifically. So breaking down what the movie is, what's the setup for the game, the breakdown of why we love these matchups, picking an MVP for each one, having a section about is someone in this movie good or not at their job. And then so, some variety of different categories. With a few, we break down some sports movie Hall of Fame cases. There's a cool play map and a bunch of other cool visuals in each one. I can say, since like I did all the writing, Rick did all the art, I can guarantee you the art looks awesome. So even if you don't read a word, like, the art is definitely worth it. I think it makes a great gift for any dad who doesn't want to do any reading, but like it's like would be interested in just like poking through and looking at the tickets and the art. Rick did an awesome job. But yeah, that's just kind of the genesis of it. It turns into essentially just a love letter to 26 of the greatest fictional sports movies. And I should specify fictional, because I've already gotten a lot of, so Remember the Titans in here, is Miracle in
Yeah.
here, and like, no, because like those tickets, because the initial genesis being the tickets, the Miracle ticket actually exists. It's on eBay for a lot of money right now. Yeah, so we stuck to fictional.
Yep. Clemmer, you had a question about the movies,
I have a
right?
question about stubs. Yeah, so like I'm a huge ticket stub guy. I miss them dearly. I loved going through the book, and you're absolutely right. The book does look fantastic. Do you have any stubs to any games that you cherish? That you like? I have a few that, like, I went to Johan St. Hans no hitter, and I cherish those stubs greatly, and now they don't exist anymore. It sucks.
I still have the ticket to the 2012 Sugar Bowl, Virginia Tech versus Michigan. It was my first like big bowl game going to. I still have the ticket stub to my wife and I's first date was at a minor league baseball game, so I still have that ticket
That's
stub.
nice.
But yeah, it's funny. Rick has a ton, and it's funny. We had that conversation about how they made for such cool mementos. Like
Yes.
I've bought some off eBay before, just for like my
Mhm.
general dumb sports memorabilia collection. And I mean, them really going by the wayside is such a bummer. And it's like something that, like, Rick, when we kind of finished our draft and stuff, he sent me a copy of the Bull Durham ticket he made that I have in my office. And it's something that we've like kicked around as like giveaways or bookmarks or something like that. But it is such a bummer that it's like it's not something you don't get that to remember the game by.
I
No.
actually have I'm just realizing I just have like the giant Star Wars stub right there up in the corner
Oh
from
yeah.
Yeah, from New Hope thing. They are just incredible mentors. Obviously, it's not a real one, but they are really fun, just fun to look at. 26 sports movies. How do you narrow that list down? Because these are pretty broad categories, and there's some movies in here too where I wouldn't expect them to be in there. Kind of like A Knight's Tale. Like in my mind, like oh, a big sports movie thing. Knight's Tale is not going to be like immediately off the top of my head, but it's amazing how you guys break it down.
Yeah, it was tough. It was probably one of the toughest parts because there was like a kill your darlings element. There were a few movies that we did like full sections for, and then I ended up having to cut for space. It was kind of a combination of stuff obviously that's popular. We want the the book to be bought, so we want movies that people recognize, and then there are a couple things that are just like trying to get to everyone. Like A Knight's Tale is one of those ones that, like, for me, like, I'm 33, that movie was huge for for my age group, and like it's on Netflix, it's on TV all the time. Like it's we wanted some unique stuff like that. Like Hot Rod's another one like that, or for people of a certain generation. So wanted to include those. Obviously, like we had to limit it. We limited ourselves to one Rocky movie. We picked Rocky 4. We also included Creed. We kind of lamented that there are very few fictional sports movies with female leads. Like it's a very untapped genre. Like there's very little. So we were able to do She's the Man and Bend It Like Beckham, but like that's an area that has been sorely neglected in sports movies. So there were some tough cuts. I would say, like, oh, the toughest cut for me was it was kind of, it was a Kill Your Darlings thing, but it was Warrior. Gavin O'Connor's UFC movie. It was one that it's just not enough people have seen, and so we had to kind of make the cut versus that over some other popular movies, but it's like one of my favorites. But yeah, cutting down to 20, there were some obvious ones, Tin Cup, Bull Durham, Major League. Those ones are always gonna be in, those are bulleted in there, but we just kind of wanted to get a good variety, a little bit of almost every sport, and hopefully down the road, maybe there's a chance for a sequel so we can bring in a lot more stuff that we didn't get to write about this time.
So I guess on the flip side of it, you wrote the book with Rick. Are there any movies that you have in there that maybe you didn't really love or didn't want to put in there? You're like, all right, fine, guess we got to put this one in there.
There was nothing that I was like begrudgingly. I will say, like, these are 26 movies I love. There were a few that I hadn't seen as much. Like I will say the one that I gained a massive appreciation for, I think I'd only seen it maybe one time before we started the project. But Rick is huge on it, Slapshot, because Rick's a little bit older than me. And so he was huge on Slapshot. I'd maybe only seen it once, and like, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. And I ended up watching it like 4 or 5 times in the process of writing this book, and just am in love with it. It's probably in my top 10. So that was one where it was on the list, it was one of Rick's favorites. It's an incredibly popular hockey movie. Like, it was on the list for sure. But upon rewatch, I was like, this movie rips. This is awesome. So I would say, like, falling in love with that one more. Most everything else is stuff that I had seen a zillion times and just all in on.
Of all your MVPs in the book, through because you have the MVPs for all the lists there was one where I stood out to me, and you mentioned this movie already, but he stood out to me where I'm like, this guy gets it. And it was Barry Pasternak and Hot Rod. And that was when I read it, and I'm like, that's every time I watch Hot Rod, Chris Parnell, he stands out to me as not only just the stupidness of like the tattoos of the AM/FM thing, but like his voice is just lends itself so perfectly to like that radio announcer voice. And I love that. I love the MVP sections, but that one specifically got me really good.
The boner police joke always just kills me. Like every time I watch that movie, like it annihilates me. Not to like, no free ads, I guess, but the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers, the new podcast they're doing where they're running through all their skits and stuff. They just had an episode recently talking about the making of Hot Rod. And if you like Hot Rod, it is just the biggest treat.
It's so much fun.
I also kind of tangential to that, you have Coach Finstock's Rules to Live By from Teen Wolf. I grew up in the 80s. Teen Wolf was on HBO. I felt like every hour on the hour. And like Coach Finstock, by the way, an amazing performance by Jay Tarsis. This guy just doesn't give a fuck about anything. He's just trying to get through the day. He's a great character. He's a high school gym teacher, does not really care about anything but just simply getting through the day. But when I saw that, kind of like what Kendrick was saying, I saw it, I'm like, oh, this guy does get it. Do you have any like favorite parts of the book? Like there's little that's what I liked of the book. It was like you can kind of jump in anywhere. You don't need to, you can, if you have a movie you really love, you can read that first. It's not, you don't read it in order. But is there anything that you got to kind of break out that you were super excited to write about?
Um, honestly, the most, what I like doing the most was actually in a couple, for a lot of the movies, we reached out to experts or people in the field. And that was a lot of fun reaching out to other people and hearing their thoughts on the movie. So like, for instance, with Happy Gilmore, I reached out to Kyle Porter, who does covers golf for CBS Sports, and got his insight on like would this prodigious driving ability that Happy has, like how much of an advantage is this really? And we kind of determined like if Harry Higgs could drive the ball like Happy Gilmore is probably the best golfer in the world now. So things like that, like reaching out to, I got No Laying Up's Kevin Van Valkenburg to talk about how we would remember Roy McAvoy 20 years after Tin Cup or things like that. So that sections like that were a lot of my favorites, just hearing from other people on these movies. Man, in terms of stuff I wrote, weirdly, like sometimes like it was hard to get a fresh perspective, like to write a fresh perspective on the movies. Like a lot of these have been covered so in depth, but like I will say like a lot of the book, I go back and I read it and I'm like, oh, I should have done this differently. Felt like I was kind of in my bag writing about The Sandlot. I have a 10-year-old. It's something that like we've shared together, that movie just being about childhood and about we wrote kind of specifically about that 4th of July game with the fireworks and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed taking that look at it as, someone who played, Sandlot baseball as a kid and played baseball as a kid, and now as a kid who's experiencing this movie and like the joy of childhood and all that. So like that's probably the sappy answer. I also I loved writing the good at their job section to Kingpin, talking about Roy Munson. If he irons out some certain skills, a certain job he does to get his rent paid early in the movie. So I liked including that in there.
From a whole new perspective. I like that, seeing Sandlot from the second time. I feel like watching it as a kid versus watching it later as a dad too, just totally different sort of viewing experiences. And the nostalgia element obviously huge in it. Klemmer, you had
You
that
guys
question
gave
about tempo, right?
Dennis Leary shit, his character, the stepdad in The Sandlot. I read that chapter. It was like,
Yeah.
this guy's not a good stepdad at all. He's throwing the curveball at the kid.
Yeah, when you're telling your kid like you got to watch out for that curve. You're teaching how to throw. Why are you throwing him curveballs? What are we doing here, buddy?
Like
You're supposed to be
throw.
lobbing the ball.
Hysterical. Generally speaking, which sports movies do you think make for the best movies? Which sport makes for the best movies, if that makes sense?
Oh man. I mean, they're gonna be making boxing movies until like we are all long gone from this earth. Like combat sports and just one-on-one lends itself to sport really well. Like it's easier to film, things like that. I'm just partial to baseball. It's my favorite sport. I think some of the best movies are baseball movies. I love how like you can tap into a lot of like nostalgia with baseball and like the Moneyball line. How can you not be romantic about baseball? Like stuff like that. I would lean baseball. I will say there's fewer golf movies. Golf is I've talked to directors before, like golf is hard to film, but I love when golf's on screen. Like it lends itself clearly to like great comedy. It can lend itself to great drama. It's just really hard to do well. It's kind of a roundabout way to say like every sport could have its could
As
have its
moments, yeah.
moments. I would say if I had to pick one, it's probably baseball. I love more baseball movies than any other genre.
Mm-hmm.
With movie studios so focused on like tent poles and kind of like blockbusters or nothing, do you think there is still a place for sports movies in the theater? I mean, I feel like the best ones the last 5 or so years have gone straight to streaming. Like, is there still room for this?
Yeah, that's like the Sandler movie Hustle.
Yeah,
which went straight to Netflix, which like I really, really liked. And like seeing that in a theater would have been fun. Seeing like especially the scenes where it was like him and the main character and Anthony Edwards like going one-on-one, like that stuff would have been fun. I feel like that's there, but like at the end, like at this point, like it's hard to know what's going to make money in the box office. Like, I don't think Furiosa did $100 million, but like Inside Out 2 blew the doors off. It's just like,
right.
You just don't know. I would like to, cause I think like, especially if it's a sport, like racing or something like that. Like imagine if like back in the day, like Days of Thunder had just gone to streaming. Yeah, I just think with every sports movie would be better in a theater, but at this point, like, you just it's we're kind of at mercy of what people think is going to make a bunch of money. And I don't know if we'll get like the stereotypical like underdog team sports movie that they just throw in there now. Like I don't think we'll get a lot more of those. It's going to have to be something that's driven like a Moneyball, like driven by existing IP or some existing story driven by a big star. But I don't know. Like I would have loved to have seen Hustle in a theater.
For sure. One thing I noticed when going through the book, and this is just something I think more maybe systemic in the world of sports movies in general, there's not a lot of good or guys great soccer movies, which I always found to be very odd considering like you get like the Damned United, you get like every now and then a few good kids movies, but like there's really not a lot of great ones considering how huge and massive soccer is, number one sport in like the planet, and yet just not really anything great representation movie wise.
There's nothing. It's really weird. I love the Damn United. I only
Yeah.
saw that for the first time like a year or two ago, and really love that. But like you say soccer movies, and I honestly like off the top of my head, I think of the two we have in the book, Bennett Like Beckham, which is still really good. She's the Man, which is definitely more of like a high school movie, but still a lot of fun. But when I think like soccer movies, like Kicking and Screaming, the Will
Yeah.
Ferrell children's comedy comes to mind, but it's like it's really untapped, especially for how popular soccer's gotten in the States now. Like I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been a run made at that. I think the was it like the Michael Fassbender movie recently that was
Yeah.
about like the
First goal
Samoa
wins, I
soccer
think.
team? Yeah, yeah. I didn't see it. I don't think a lot of people saw, but
Yeah.
it's funny that there haven't been more shots taken, no pun intended, on soccer movies.
Yeah, which is weird too,
You
because it
guys are
feels like
forgetting.
if you look at some of the other sports too, like a lot of them are harder to replicate on screen. I feel like soccer isn't as hard, and I feel like you can kind of almost see evidence that in like Ted Lasso, where like they're able to
Hmm.
replicate like good enough looking soccer. But I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You guys are forgetting the soccer epic Ladybugs with
Yeah,
Rodney Dangerfield and Jack A,
Of
where
course.
they dressed Jonathan Brandis up like a girl, and he got to play in the girls' league.
that's the first thing I
Ladybug.
think of when I think of Rodney Dangerfield sports movies is Ladybugs, not any other
Not,
movie. Nothing else
no,
comes to mind.
nothing. Yeah.
Of
You literally
course,
have, if you think about it though, you can even say Back to School is a sports movie if you want to go
Yeah,
that route too. And once again, far superior than Ladybugs.
yeah.
on my podcast, I argue that all movies are sports movies, if you really believe. So it just depends on what sport you're playing. Like Alien, it's the sport of survival, the original sport.
Alien Resurrections, he plays basketball. Ripley played like they're when they I think they like bring her back from the dead with DNA or something, and she like, dunks over I forget what actor is Ron Perlman. It's a sight to behold. That I think is the second worst basketball scene, only to Catwoman. That was a tough one.
Oh, the Catwoman one is legendary though.
Yeah, it's just going like this. That maybe in Double Team where the big move was just like slightly bending a little bit, and like that was like their big moment of this is my basketball move of the century, and it was what is that?
I mean,
Uh,
Teen Wolf has the original bad basketball scene. I
True.
mean, 8 minutes, the win in the end song blaring. God bless Michael J. Fox, but he could do a lot of things, but play basketball was not one of them.
Not on the list. Remember, check out Movies with Balls. You can find it where books are sold, and I definitely get the physical copy. And I like that you mentioned like for dads, like my dad, I think easy. That's my his next birthday gift. I mean, easily he's gonna love something like this. Make sure you check that out. And now we got a draft coming up. We're gonna do a sports movie draft, 3 picks each among the categories. We have baseball, basketball, football, hockey, golf, combat sports, racing, and a misc. We throw a misc in there every now and then.
So is the MISC? I want
Oh,
to get
that
clarification on the MISC. Is that could be any sport, or is that has to be sports that are not listed here?
I think anything you want. I think you can go as broad as you want. I think it can be a movie within that category. It can be a movie that is like we were saying, all movies are sports movies. It could be something closer to that. It
Okay.
could be an Aliens Resurrections if you wanted it to be. It shouldn't be, but it can be. Anywhere you want to go. And we'll start out with you, Kyle. You go first, then Klemmer, then I'll go, and then we'll snake back.
Man, so you give me the first pick, which I appreciate. It's kind of I think this is a position where like you can't draft for need. You just got to go. I'm gonna go with Bull Durham. Bull Durham's my favorite movie. So I've got to pick that. And so just to clarify, we're each picking one in each sport, or we're each picking three in each sport.
We're each getting one pick from each sport.
One pick from each sport. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bull Durham off the board easy. I know. I'm pretty sure you're a big fan of that, right, Klemmer? If I remember correctly.
I like it. Don't
Yeah.
love. Some people love it. I'm more of a Field of Dreams guy. Tip my hand a little
Gotcha.
bit. But yeah, I think there's two camps. They both came out like what, a year apart. Both started
Year
Kevin
apart.
Costner, and it's funny how they kind of both work out. Either you have people overly sentimental like me, or you have more normal people like Kyle.
I mean, I think there's place for both. I love Field of Dreams too. Again, you got to go into Field of Dreams being like, I'm gonna get emotional. I'm gonna be sappy. I'm gonna be here for it. I'm gonna love it.
Mm-hmm. Klemmer, you're up.
This is not my favorite sports movie at all, but it's really the only one I really like in this genre. So I'm gonna take Miracle. Not a big slapshot guy, even though we talked about it earlier. And there aren't too many. I'm not a huge hockey fan. I don't like Mighty Ducks either. So, but Miracle is a fantastic movie. So I'm gonna go with Miracle to get hockey off my board.
That's smart getting that. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, do I want to draft for need? Because some of these are not nearly as deep as others. Like you were saying, like before, Kyle, like baseball movies are super deep. But then like some of the in combat sports, super deep. But I think I'll just go with one, and you can call it recency bias, I guess, because I watched it very recently. It is kind of new. But Moneyball, like you were saying before, every time I watch Moneyball, man, it's just there's a new line that pops out as being just incredible. Sorkin screenplay, Brad Pitt, just absolutely in his game. I was watching I think it was like just some like TikTok snippet of I forget what it might have been like Barry Zito or something, but they're like asking him for advice or like what's something Billy Bean does that like maybe people don't know before they start filming Moneyball. He's like, yeah, he just eats a lot. Like he eats with his mouth, he talks with his mouth full a ton, and like obviously that's Brad Pitt's bread and butter right there, no pun intended. Like he loves that sort of stuff. Then I think that little detail of him just like constantly oral fixation, eating something, it always gets me. So I'll take Moneyball first, one of my favorites. And then again, it's the need thing. I guess I'll go. They're so deep. This is where it gets hard. I'll go Rush. I love Rush. I think that's a great movie.
That's a good. I had that written down. I love Rush.
Rush is such a good movie, such a great true story, expertly acted. I think that Hemsworth is like that's one of the movies where you really put him on the map, like post right after Thor, right? Ron Perlman or Ron, I was saying Ron Perlman because I said Ron Perlman earlier. Ron Howard, amazing director, great race scenes, and then it's like one of those movies you watch it and you want to go and like actually read the full Wikipedia of like everything about like Niki Lauda and like all these guys. So really like Rush. So I'll do Moneyball and Rush back to back. Klemmer.
I'm gonna go with Caddyshack. It was tough between this and another golf comedy, not Tin Cup, which I also like too. But Caddyshack, I mean, especially a child of the '80s, like it's just tough. And it's funny. In the book, Kyle, you said that it was more like Rodney Dangerfield was the MVP. Where I got to go with Ty Webb, Chevy Chase's character. I think you could have a debate for either, but it kind of goes back to that Field of Dreams, Bull Durham camp. I think both. It's funny, both sides. That's what Caddyshack has. It has comedy for everybody. Like it's funny no matter where you land. He has a teen romance. It has the Chevy Chase stuff. Has the Rodney Dangerfield stuff, and it all works. And Bill Murray. I mean, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, truly just like a collection of sketches that work perfectly.
Yes.
Everything in that movie is funny.
Yes, every single part. You're right. From the beginning to the end, you're laughing the entire time. And is the plot the best? Maybe not, but it doesn't matter.
Multiple layers for everybody. Kyle, now you get back to back.
Back to back. I'm gonna piggyback off the golf. I'm gonna take Tin Cup. Again, so that makes me 2 for 2 with Ron Shelton, who I think does sports movies better than anyone. 2 for 2 with Costner.
Yep.
I love Tin Cup, the finale at the US Open. I love how so many of the things from that movie, so many of the lines are like used in like common golf lingo now. I'm just huge on Tin Cup. So rewatchable. At any time like golf TV or whatever, Golf Channel will run it a lot, and it's just like, yeah, I'll throw it on. Why not? So I'll take Tin Cup, and then I actually think football is like sneaky light. I think there's like I feel like it's top heavy, but so I'm gonna go with Friday Night Lights, the movie. My favorite football movie, I think, does a really good job. I went to college in Odessa, in this town.
Oh yeah.
There's a Division II college there, and that's where I spent 5 years. And I went to one of these games, one of the Odessa Permian games, and I actually watched them get absolutely boat raced by Odessa High School, which was very interesting. But I love this movie. I like the soundtrack, you know, how it I think the football action looks great. I think Billy Bob Thornton's really good. I think Derek Luke, the scene where he gets in his car with his grandpa after he clears out his locker, I guess, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Friday Night Lights, is incredible. So yeah, I'm going with that.
Who was the soundtrack on? It's the same guy. Is it not Reznor and Ross? It was
It's Explosions in the
Explosions in the
Sky.
Sky.
Explosions in the Sky. Yeah, because I was like, I know it's the guy
They
that did
did a
like Lone
show.
Survivor or something, but yeah,
And they
great
also
song.
do the show, Friday Night Lights, the show. So
That's right.
that I made the mistake of seeing the show before I saw the movie. So like I would watch the movie, but I kept getting distracted by so many things that are similar to the show. Peter Berg directed both, the pilot and everything. I had a hard time, but Brandon Walker loves Friday Night Lights and had me watch it for the first time a couple years ago. And it's a fantastically made movie. I just can't appreciate it as much as I should because I watched it in the wrong order.
Makes sense. Klemmer, you're up.
All right. I'm gonna go with my miscellaneous and take it off the board. I'm gonna take Uncut Gems.
Okay. Well, that's a
Trying to
lot
go
of
with
basketball action. Yeah, I like that. That's
basketball, but also it's not really a basketball movie. So like I think it's kind of like a sports gambling movie potentially, or it's a weird sports movie of sorts. And plus it's fantastic. It's a panic attack, the entire time. And then for my football.
Oh no, you don't got back to back yet.
Oh, I don't. Okay, never mind.
Don't forget. Yeah,
good because I'm kind of torn anyway.
I do like that though, because I still remember. I think it was the first leg of his like 18 leg parlay where it was like Kevin Garnett wins the tip off, and it's just like something like that is just so like in his gambling and sports brain. It's just like how the fuck do you start on a tip off bet?
Right.
But Uncut Gems off the board. I love that. It does get. I think that there's two hockey movies I really want. One of them I think Klemmer will take. The other one I don't mind if I get later.
I already took a hockey movie.
Klemmer's already got his hockey movie.
Oh, so it was your hockey movie then. Then I think you might get Kyle. So I think I'll hold on to that. I think I'll just get Rocky off the board. I'll get Rocky off the board. It's just combat sports has as super deep, especially because we're encompassing both, wrestling, or MMA and boxing. It's all together. But Rockies, I think like if you think about fighting movies, like professional fighting movies, like that's the number one. So it's tough not to I can't let that sit. So I'll do Rocky first. And then I think basketball is also a little bit lighter than we might think, and I think I'll do Hoosiers off the board. Another classic one where I know you're not the number one Hoosiers fan or anything like that, but Hoosiers is one of those ones. It's like it's another if you think about basketball.
It's fine. The basketball. There aren't a ton of great basketball movies. I don't think. I think it's a pretty strong pick. I actually had it. Up there. I had Rocky up there too. So
I like it. It's procedural. It's not like very like super like think blow your doors off movie at any given point. But like I think if I'm thinking of basketball movies, there's this and like two other movies which come to mind. But Hoosiers is like the number one. And I miss seeing Gene Hackman around, so I want him on my board. So
the Robert Hershey stuff is rough. I mean, there's no colder woman in movie history, I don't think, than that performance. It's very bizarre.
One of the most deeply uncomfortable consensual kisses in movie history.
Yes.
Hoosiers off the board for me and Rocky. So Klemmer, you're back up now.
All right, you took two of my top ones, so I don't like that. All right, I'm gonna go. What the fuck? I'm gonna go with Karate Kid for combat. You got the Rockies, which are obviously better movies. But I think the Karate Kid means more to me. Rocky means everything to me. Rocky Balboa is the greatest character in film history. He took Rocky. I'm gonna follow by the rules a little bit of kind of the book of like, all right, we took Rocky, it's off the board. I'm going to go Karate Kid because God, Miyagi makes me cry every time. The ending when he's like I cry every time. I get so excited when Russo comes back in. So Daniel Russo wins it for me there.
Do you ever see Pat Morita's impression of Red Fox?
No, that sounds fantastic.
Incredible. He does like he did like an impression because I guess Red Fox kind of like set him up. Like he was struggling in Hollywood, Pat Morita, and Red Fox kind of like took him in. And he does his impression of him. That's like, it's like you're listening. If you weren't looking at him, you would think it's Red Fox. It's incredible. You feel like it's something you would really appreciate.
That's incredible.
Yeah. You wouldn't in a million years expect it, but it's an incredible spot on impression. The Karate Kid off the board. Kyle, you're up back to back.
Okay. I think I'm going to go hockey. I'm not going to go Slapshot. I'm going to go Goon. I love Goon.
That's what I thought you were going to do Slapshot and I was going to get Goon. I love Goon.
I love Goon so much. I think Goon is so funny. The Sean William Scott, Liev Schreiber, the scene where they meet at like the bar or whatever and talk. I love Goon a lot. Everyone should see Goon. Goon was another tough cut from the book. Very tough cut. Again, because not enough people have seen it. And then I'm gonna go basketball. This is tough. I think I'm admitting I am passing up a better movie for this, but I'm going with my heart. I'm gonna go Blue Chips.
Mm.
I love Blue Chips. I love the opening. I love how disgusted Nolte is with his team in the opening. Like it just talking about how sick it makes him to watch him play. It's fun watching the Shaq and Penny of it all. Like it's very fun in hindsight, especially like we didn't get, what we get 2 years of that in real life like that. That's fun to see what that might have looked like. Yeah, I love Blue Chips. I think Blue Chips is just highly rewatchable. It's a lot of fun. The basketball obviously looks great because they literally just rolled the ball out with a bunch of guys who played high level college and NBA basketball and said, go play. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Blue Chips basketball.
I like that. That's a great pick with the heart. Klemmer.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with my racing pick here. I'm gonna go with Ford versus Ferrari.
Great movie. Great dad movie.
It's a
all-time
good
dad
one.
movie.
Great dad movie.
Yeah, it's a strong movie. It does everything it needs to do, checks all the boxes, super exciting. Christian Bale's accent's a little bit hard to understand, which makes it kind of fun to rewatch because you'll pick up actual dialogue he's saying the second and third time you watch it, as opposed to just being confused the whole time. But it's a very good movie. The racing scenes are very well done. It's just a quality film. I got a Best Picture nomination. That's like that stacked year with like 1917 and what Parasite won that year, right? Like it was and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
year,
It's a stacked year. So it kind of like honestly it fell through the cracks, but it kind of like never really had a chance against those movies. But it definitely deserved a nom.
Really good supporting cast too. Like Josh Lucas, I think was awesome in that. Leo Beebe, right? And the guy who played Henry Ford was Tracy Letts.
Yeah, because he was in Winning Time too as
That's right
as the coach. Yeah, the scene where he is talking about how Ford is who won WW2 is just like the ultimate dad movie. Like it's a racing movie, but we're getting some WW2 references. Is like dads just went to heaven with that one.
Did you ever see Perlman's TikToks? The guy that wrote
yeah, he is the night. Like I know people talk about what Jeff is like on Twitter. He is the nicest guy. I will say, like he was incredibly kind to me during the during this book with help and stuff like that. But his TikTok is incredibly interesting with the stories of his reporting.
Dude, he's such a good storyteller. It's incredible. I spent like hours and hours just like I'll go through every single one. It could be the most benign story, and I'm still like kind of like, oh yeah, like let me hear about this random encounter in 1987 in the club's AAA clubhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's incredible how much he's retained. Like all the stuff from researching his books. I mean, the work, the amount of people he talks to for his books, I think that's what makes him so special. But just the amount of stuff he has retained from just these small conversations he's had is his TikTok is for any sports fan is 100% worth a watch.
Could not agree more. Okay, so Ford v Ferrari off the board. Great pick. I got back to back. I think I will start with now. I will do the Water Boy for my football one. I love the Water Boy. I think that the Water Boy is a very funny movie, and I think the football scenes, regardless of how like ridiculous some of them are, you get like that satisfying like crunch in football movies out of the Water Boy, which I really like. Every hit you hear that like that pad on pad crunch, which I find so satisfying whenever I watch one of these, and it's super funny on top of that. All the supporting regular Sandler versus guys, very very funny. Big fan of the Water Boy. Klemmer, when it first came out, how old were you? You were like right in the perfect age, I think, right?
20. Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
How was it? How was that theater
20.
experience?
It was fine. I don't really love The Water Boy. I still don't love it. I rewatched it about a year ago for the show with Brandon. Like it's fine. It like I loved Happy Gilmore. I loved Billy Madison. So I went in with really high hopes. I remember like I even loved what's the movie where he goes to hell? Little Nicky.
Yeah,
Little Nicky. Like,
because you were right in the perfect timeline for that Sandler heater from like awesome. Billy Madison Daddy. Through Mr. Deeds, depending on where you land on Mr. Deeds.
I think it's funny too. Waterboy, out of all those movies we just listed, is the one I like the least. I don't hate it, but it doesn't really hit for me entirely.
I think you actually just gave me a great idea. I'll just do Happy Gilmore back to back and get my golf out of the way. Happy Gilmore, another one. Golf ones are like if I were to pick one where I'm like I want a legitimately great golf movie, it would probably be like closer to Tin Cup. And I remember we interviewed Don Johnson about it a long time ago, and we're like, the more we think about it, your character in Tin Cup, he did like nothing wrong. He's just kind of like a
Nothing.
regular, just golfer. Wants his wife to take some lessons, whatever. It's a pretty regular guy. He's like, yeah, I don't know why he hated me so much. I think I was missing a little bit of like the pathos or whatever. But I'll do
Golf is
Happy
one that
Gilmore.
if we had four guys doing this draft, golf would have gotten heated.
Oh yeah,
Because it really is like a three-headed monster in terms
Bagger
of golf
Vance
movies.
after that. It's like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah,
Like,
I guess rough.
it's tough
Yeah.
after that. So I'll do Happy Gilmore off the board. Klemmer, you're back up.
All right. I'm gonna go with this is a movie that I like. I think it's partly because of the nostalgia. I just love it. It's not a good movie. Any Given Sunday. It's if you take it individual parts, it's very good. Put together, it's a giant mess. It's Oliver Stone and it's like wildest, weirdest. The cast is Charlton Heston. It has Cameron Diaz. It's bizarre. But Al Pacino and Dennis Quaid and Jamie Foxx, they all just hit for me. And it is a stylistically very interesting movie to watch. Lawrence Taylor gives a really good performance. I really like Any Given Sunday, and I'm going to say it's my favorite football movie. And I know I'm the only one who thinks that, but that's fine.
The speech, it has potentially the best sports movie speech, the Inches speech.
It does. It's fantastic.
Game of Inches, man. That's an all-timer. That actually, yeah, considering where people would probably rank Any Given Sunday among like the ranks of like all sports movies, like it probably wouldn't be crazy high, but that speech would definitely be in like the top like 3. And like sports speeches are all-timers. So
yeah, it makes you want to run through a wall.
Exactly. Yeah. So Any Given Sunday off the board, Kyle, you have back-to-back.
Okay, so I need combat, racing, and miscellaneous. Combat. I'm going to go Warrior for combat. All right, I talked about it earlier. Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton, incredible Academy Award nominated Nick Nolte performance. It's Gavin O'Connor, his little sports movie triumphant with that Miracle on the Way Back. Awesome stuff there. I love Warrior. I'm like, I don't really watch UFC like ever. And I think that movie is top tier. And then racing, I'm gonna have to go Talladega Nights. I still love Talladega Nights. I think it's a perfect, like, it sums up the South perfectly. It's like a great parody. It's like a great yeah, I think the racing is fun. I think I love that. I love Farrell did I can't remember the exact order, but it was like Talladega, Blades of Glory, and Semi-Pro, like back to back to back. Yeah. I love Talladega and Semi-Pro. I don't really care for Blades of Glory, but Talladega Nights still makes me laugh to this day. So I'll go with that.
I love that. So Talladega Nights off the board. Klemmer, you're back up.
Is it my turn? Did he go twice? He got both of us?
Yeah, Warrior and Talladega Nights.
Okay, Warrior and Talladega Nights. Okay, I'm sorry. I will go with. I'm really torn here between basketball movies, but I'm gonna go with Air. And I really love Air. It's once again like 80s kid porn where you get to like hear the music that you love about basketball players you loved watching when you were a kid. I always like kind of behind the scenes stuff, like business stuff. Like it's interesting to watch. And I'm a sucker for Damon Affleck. Like it just hits for me. Yeah, I almost went with The Way Back. Because that movie is fantastic and is underserved here. Like because it came out right when COVID hit. Like it was really bizarre. And it didn't get the audience it deserved. But that was Affleck should have got a nomination, especially in such a weak movie year that year.
Yeah. And
he got robbed. But that movie is really good. I'm gonna go with Air though.
Air's a good pick. I agree with you. I think the only thing that in my brain took to stop that from going to like the next level was like they needed to do more to make Matt Damon not just be Matt Damon, which is I think a tough kind of thing to do in a lot of different movies. Like I feel like a lot of actors are really good at like transforming into like a different role. Like you're talking about like Warrior or something like that, or some of those other movies. Like these actors, like they go across these different roles and they seem totally different. Matt Damon in a lot of movies, he just kind of feels like he's just Matt Damon. And Air was definitely moving. I'm like, I'm just looking at him. He looks the same. His hair looks more or less the same. He's wearing kind of regular stuff. And like, I just needed something like a tad bit more transformative. I just don't know what it was.
I'll push back on you a little bit there. So he's in Ripley. Talented Miss Ripley is fantastic in that. Like, man, Matt Damon can do more than just be Matt Damon. I'm gonna.
When he's not just Matt Damon, that's when he's at his best. And that's what I think. I just wanted to be a next little level. So you took Air off the board.
Air is really good comfort food.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It made me happy. Like I'm genuinely. I've watched it like 3 times since it came out. Like it makes me happy to watch it. Like so, I must enjoy it. Like, is it like I said? Is it The Godfather? No, but. Like it's better than most movies, and I really enjoyed it. It makes me happy.
All right, I gotta do because you got Goon. I gotta do Slapshot. I like Slapshot a lot. I on a personal level, like I recognize Slapshot is the better movie. I like Goon more, but I'm gonna go with Slapshot here. Still an incredible movie. Great cast across the board. The one line that I think we quoted the most of the kids, just like when they're doing the anthem, it's like, listen to the fucking song. Like, just it's so funny. It's a great movie, great hockey movie. There's some other ones I think I might like think about, like Mystery Alaska or something. Like, I'm not really gonna, go out of my way to pick. So I'll go with like Slapshot. And then for my, I'll do my miscellaneous instead, and I will do. I've been stuck between two, and I've been agonizing over it the last few hours. And I think I will pick Dodgeball. I think
Ooh,
Dodgeball. If you're looking at
it's a good miscellaneous.
competitive sports
Yeah.
movies, Dodgeball is one of those ones. It's super quotable, super funny. Considering that was like I think a directorial debut for I think the first interview on LCB, Rawson Thurber Moss or Thurber, shoot, I forget his name. It's a confusing name. Guy did Skyscraper. But Dodgeball, awesome movie, great cast across the board. Everyone was amazing. So I
Mhm.
think one of my favorite Ben Stiller roles. Like every little bit, in like another one where you rewatch and you get more of it and you like more of it, like the dun dun, like all that shit. It's just it makes me laugh every time I watch it. So I'll
It's
do
super
Dodgeball.
creative, like the different
Very
teams they go against and the characters and like it's just a funny, creative movie. I love the hell out of that. It holds up really well.
a lot of like throwaway lines
Yeah.
that are amazing.
Yeah, kind of like what you were talking about with Matt Damon. I'm like with Ben Stiller. When Ben Stiller gets weird, when he does like White Goodman, I think is when I love Ben Stiller 100 times more than just like, oh, neurotic guy who, is uncomfortable in social situations. When he's like
Yes.
a White Goodman or who, like Tony Perkins in Heavyweights, I find him so much more like so much funnier.
You
So
ever did Billy
Dodgeball.
Madison? Or no, Happy
Yes.
Gilmore.
Happy
When he
Gilmore,
plays
the
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 nurse.
The
orderly.
nurse.
Such an asshole.
He's like over the corner, like shh, so funny, dude. So Dodgeball, that was my last pick. Clemmer, your last pick.
My last pick is my favorite sports movie of all time. It's Field of Dreams. I love this movie so much. I saw it in the movie theaters 2 weeks ago at Alamo. And I cried again because I cry every time I see it. It is the greatest thing of all time. And now it's the point where I cry the whole movie. Now just at the end, I cried during the Moonlight Graham stuff. I even cried almost during the credits. My eyes start to well because the music hits. Yeah, Field of Dreams is my favorite thing of all time.
It is crazy how much of a stranglehold Costner kind of had on sports movies for like what a little bit of a decade, or maybe
We
less than a
haven't even
decade.
Yeah.
mentioned one of the later ones, McFarlane USA, which is very
Yeah.
good. That's a very good
Yes.
movie.
McFarlane, yeah, I did that with Perlman on my show, and that one is I had never seen it before, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And then Draft Day isn't a good movie, but it is great content.
Yes. No
Yeah,
question.
it
Great
does.
content.
Yes, yes. It's a horrible movie. It's
Yeah.
interesting to watch.
I think I forget who we interviewed for that. Not from for that, but from that. Who was Jonah from Veep? I forget his.
Oh, Timothy Simons.
Yes, Timothy Sounds. We interviewed him for that, and he told us, and we didn't realize this, that like when they made the movie, they asked all the teams for like the rights so that they could use them in the draft process, and pretty much all the teams are like, yeah, you can use this. Like the Seahawks are like, yeah, you can use our name, but we can't come out as a loser. Like so, no matter the trade is, no matter what happens, our team can't come out to look like we fucked up. So that's why you end up with like essentially like a zero, so like no winner, no loser trade at the end of the day, because none of the teams allowed their likeness to be used if they came out as a loser, which obviously isn't the case in the real draft universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Field of Dreams off the board, and then last pick of the draft, Kyle.
So with miscellaneous, does it have to be something other than these sports we've already talked about, or can it be whatever?
I think it can definitely be whatever you want, anything.
Okay. I'm torn between two. I am gonna honorably mention the documentary Senna, which is I just need to shout it out about the F1 driver Ayrton Senna is incredible. But I am going with Everybody Wants Some, which I think is the best baseball movie of the last 15 years. As someone who played small college baseball, I was let's just say I liked it a lot more than I was good. But it hit a lot of familiar notes, like all the way they did the characters. Like this movie, it's funny. There's only one actual base and how they conduct themselves and how they interact with each other. I think it's a masterclass. It obviously, I think it's the first time we see like, oh, this Glenn Powell guy has a little something something. Wyatt Russell in there. Most of the cast. Austin Melio, who is I think incredible in Hitman, is
Yeah.
really good, and Everybody Wants Some as well. So, yeah, I love that movie. It's a comfort watch for me. I will throw it on just to like hang. It feels like hanging out with friends.
I was gonna ask if you had seen The Hitman. That was the next question on Linklater's list because man, he's just Linklater's got that sort of taste or sort of style to him. It's just so easy to makes all his movies I think pretty easy to watch.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay, so our
Agreed.
full list of movies, Kyle, you have Bull Durham, Tin Cup, Friday Night Lights, Goon, Blue Chips, Warrior, Talladega Nights, and Everybody Wants Some. Klemmer, you have Miracle, Caddyshack, Uncut Gems, The Karate Kid, Ford v Ferrari, Any Given Sunday, Air, Field of Dreams. I have Moneyball, Rush, Rocky, Hoosiers, The Waterboy, Happy Gilmore, Slapshot, and Dodgeball. So when I put this graphic out, I feel like a lot of the responses are going to be pro meat because I picked all the meat and potatoes, very easy, like no thinking picks. But the more vocal minority pick or Twitter users and Instagram users and all that stuff will definitely be more on your guys' side because my team is boring as all hell. Your guys' teams, you have like big time shooters in the streets. I think for your movies.
Yeah,
I think heart.
Yeah.
I think the Sandler ones are actually like the most popular. I think people love the Sandler movies.
Yeah.
And I got two of them. Lucky me. But these are great teams. Thank you for coming on, Kyle. That was so much fun. Make sure again, anywhere you is that what you say now? Anywhere books are found?
Yeah, anywhere books are sold, I think is the, the thing. Like obviously it's available for pre-order on Amazon,
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble. If you use bookshop.org, I believe it buys it from a local independent bookseller. So that's pretty
Awesome.
cool. But yeah, wherever.
Movies with Balls. Make sure you check it out. Again, Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. And we will hopefully have you on next book. You're gonna have to go into like all the cuts. You have to do like a blooper reel of all your sports books.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.